Welcome back, everyone, here to Bronx Talks. Today, we're going to be talking about star Oakland A's reliever Mason Miller, who has really made a big name for himself this season. His numbers are outrageous off the page, and we're going to be talking about the possibility of the New York Yankees trading for him and acquiring him this trade deadline.
Yeah, so I would argue he's been the best reliever in baseball this year. And he is playing for the Oakland Athletics, who are going to be and are one of the worst teams in baseball. And, when you have a really good player on a bad team, it's a good chance that they can then just be bait at the trade deadline. And I think there's a chance that's what we could see from Mason Miller. Now, I do wonder if the Athletics will trade him because, I mean, you can't just keep rebuilding for the rest of your franchise, right? There's a certain point where maybe this guy is part of the rebuild and, they have control of him till 2029. I could see the Oakland Athletics very well saying, all right, we want this guy to uh, be our closer, when we are good. However, they're pretty far off from that. And if this guy is available at the deadline, I think he's perfect for the Yankees. So his stuff is probably one of the best in baseball. When the Athletics played the Yankees, that was the first time I really saw him pitch. And I mean, when you have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge just looking silly, I mean, it's a pretty good sign. Uh, and also the Yankees bullpen is it's not a good spot right now. It's Clay Holmes, and that is it. I always, not always, but I look at the worst case scenario. A Yankees bullpen without Clay Holmes, whether it was an injury uh or whatever, is no bullpen at all. And, even with Clay Holmes, I mean, you can't just have one guy in that bullpen that you're relying on. I think if you brought him in, you instantly, I mean, that's a playoff bullpen now because now you have two high leverage relievers.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot for the Yankees to go out and acquire Mason Miller. He's only 25 years old, has team control till 2029. He's only making $740,000 this year. Very, very cheap. One way you could look at it, though, is he is a relief pitcher. He's not a starting pitcher. He's not a big time position player. He's a relief pitcher. So, in terms of other positions, he's not as valuable. Maybe the Oakland A's would want to bolster their farm, get more position players, maybe a starting pitcher, and get a plethora of players rather than just hold on to Mason Miller and wait down the line till they're good. And that could be very far off. I mean, the Oakland A's situation is very unique. I mean, they're going to play in Sacramento in a few years. Who knows if they want to even compete there? So I definitely think there is a good possibility he could be traded if a team offered the right package. And another thing, Christian, that would be big for the Yankees is Clay Holmes is in the final year of his contract. If the Yankees went out and got Mason Miller, this guy could be the Yankees closer for years up until 2029 and maybe even longer. This guy could be a long-term plan for the Yankees. And I mean, his numbers are outrageous. He sounds like someone that needs to be pitching for the New York Yankees. In 14 games, he has a 0.98 ERA in 18.1 innings. He has 38 strikeouts and a whip of 0.65. I mean, his numbers are off the page. His average fastball velocity is 100.8 miles per hour, and his baseball savant, it's like video game numbers time two. It's so good, it doesn't even look like it could be video game numbers. It's going to take a lot to get Mason Miller, but I do think the Yankees could package the right players to get a deal done. But who knows where the Oakland front office is if they want to part ways with a player like this, because he's doing things at a very, very high level right now.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is I would say the bullpen is probably the one area where the Yankees need to improve this deadline. I mean, really everything else has been phenomenal. And this year is also kind of like the year. I think they're going to give everything they have to get it done this year. So when the bullpen's the only spot you can improve, like naturally you're probably looking at the best guy who's probably going to be on the market, and that's Mason Miller. I do wonder if he went to the Yankees, how they do that with Clay Holmes and him. Who's the closer? Do they just fluctuate based on matchups? But honestly, I really don't think it matters. I just like the idea of two really, really high end relievers. I look at like the 2015 Royals, where that basically, got them a World Series. It was their lineup that was crafty, and then they just had a dominant bullpen where after the sixth inning, if it was tied or you were losing, you weren't going to win the game. So look, it's early, but after we play the Athletics and as the deadline is starting to come, we're a month and a half, 2 months away. We figured we'd throw the thought out there because he's probably going to be the top arm on the market this deadline.
Yeah, I would say right here, as we're talking about it right now, I would say, who knows? You could argue it's unlikely, but you could say it's probable with Oakland's situation. We don't really know, but I suspect as the weeks pile up, we'll hear more and more rumors about Mason Miller. And the thought of him and Clay Holmes having, the Yankees having the two best relievers in baseball in the same bullpen, and Mason Miller coming out of the game throwing 100 plus. It's something really, really exciting to think about. And I think the Yankees should be very interested and very intrigued to try off a Mason Miller trade.